Good evening, Bayview Mackinac race fans. It's Saturday evening, July 20th, and we're looking at the race analysis program brought to you by Vantol and Vitelli Insurance Group and LCS Record Retrieval. This is the 100th anniversary Bayview Mackinac, Bayview Mackinac race, brought to you by National Fleet Services. We want to thank them and all our sponsors for this great race. And with no further ado, we're going to go over into our tracker and see where everybody is in the race course here at just about 10 minutes to 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. I would hope to get this show out earlier. We had some technical difficulties, so here we are. But I'll tell you what, it's shaping up to be a interesting race. It's not a fast race, but it is interesting. So if you remember use of the tracker, you go to the Bayview Mac website, you click on tracking. This screen will load up, and let's dissect this a bit to see what's going on. Okay, so I've already clicked on the little flag here, the wind data for windy. That shows us relative wind speeds. Blue is light air, green is a little more breeze. So specifically, we started out this race with light conditions, 6 to 8 knots of wind, very light. In fact, there was a postponement for a little while until the breeze became enough to clear the boats away from the starting line. And it's been picking up all afternoon and into the evening. So going from blue to green, blue is, as I said, 6 to 8 knots or so. And once you get up to 10 to 15 knots, you start to get into this green color here. So we're somewhere in between for the fleet now. And we're going to zoom in a little more and get a little more resolution on this. So a lot of boats out there. Looks very crowded. Keep in mind the scale, though. I actually pinged a couple of boats out here. I said, hey, is it really crowded? And they said, no, there's enough clear air to get out there. So it looks like a traffic jam, but it's actually probably quite interesting. I don't think anybody's necessarily interfering with anyone else. But certainly a lot of crosses. The slow boats start first, followed by the fast ones. So that means the fast ones have to go through the slow ones. And I'm sure that's made for interesting times. I'm going to do one more zoom in. And here we are. So bulk of the fleet off of Point Senilac. And they're headed up the coast. Now, earlier when I looked at this, it certainly looked like kind of a bimodal distribution of where the fleet was going. There was certainly a strong tendency for boats to go along the shoreline straight up this way, but I could also see a definite split with those that initially were headed off this way into the lake. Now I see the convergence. So if we believe this wind direction, which I think is correct, then they're going downwind. It's southwest breeze. So they're sailing downwind under spinnakers. The speeds we can get at by dropping our cursor over the icon for the boat. This is Chico 2. This is a turbocharged One Design 35. Quite a fast boat for its size. They're going 7.2 knots, which is not bad. That's not planing, obviously, but they're rolling right along. Remember that this information is quite valuable. DTF in the middle of this screen stands for distance to finish. So so they've got 178 miles to go, quite a long way. But one thing that you can also do if you click on the boat is it will center. It will center, but you'll also be able to see its track. And these guys had more or less a straight track, but if we go deeper into the history, we probably would have seen them zigzagging along, trying to find clear air and get into position. So very interesting distribution of boats out here. But I also find it interesting that Chico, as a fairly small fast boat, has been able to punch out into the lead group. That says a lot about that boat and its performance. Mockingbird is one of the GL 52s out here, TP 52s. And over here is Maverick. Now, Maverick is an 80-foot boat with a canting keel. Fastest monohull in the fleet for sure. So they finally punched out to be where they should be. And they actually set a course record last week in the Chicago Mac race. So No course records, I think, in this race this year, but nonetheless, we'll be keeping an eye on them. I want to point out that the boats with the icons that have crowns over them indicate these are, and I'm going to go over here to our menu. These are boats that are first in their class or in their division. So, for example, Class A, Mockingbird, the GL52, is leading right now in that class. Now, what that simply means is that with the amount of distance they have left and the speed that they're going, they would be projected, not actually leading yet until they get close to the finish line, but this would be their projection if they were to go the same speed for the remainder of the race in that distance. So 7.7 knots, pretty fast relative to what we see others doing. Maverick is in that same class. They're, of course, faster, but their rating is quite a bit faster as well. So this is relative to rated speed. Mockingbird, Wizard, Heartbreaker, WindQuest. These are all GL52s. Stripes is the first of the sleds, the ULD B70s. Natalie J, Hooligan Racing, another 52. So out of the Santa Cruz 70s and those long, narrow boats of that genre, the Stripes is doing the best at this stage. So that's Class A. We can scroll through and see how everybody's doing in these other classes. I'm not going to take the time to do that, but you may do that on your own. Find your favorite team, see how they're doing in their class, and they'll be designated by. Let me close this. They'll be designated by the crowns out here amongst the fleet and the icons. So Fast Tango, Tim Proffitt's North American 40. They were a winner last week in their class in the Supermac race. That was a race from Chicago to Mackinac and then Mackinac down to Port Huron. Not only that, but they're the defending champion for this race as well in that class. So Tim Proffitt doing well out there now. Who else has got a crown over here? Flash, a Santana 35. There's a big group of those this year in this race, and Flash is leading that crowd. Anyway, we can just hunt around and see crowns for who's doing well out there. But we can't take the time to do it for everyone. But actually, I want to point out Madcap. They were heroes in the last race because a boat called Callisto had lost a man overboard, and the guys on Madcap were half a mile astern. They heard on the radio, they reported, they said they'd pick it up, and they picked up Sean Doherty. No issues at all. I mean, Sean was totally uninjured. I think he was more embarrassed for having fell over. But the guys at Madcap effected a rescue, and in so doing, they earned a prestigious award, a U.S. sailing called the Arthur B. Hansen Medal. So certainly give a shout out to the guys on Madcap. All right, what else do I want to talk about? I want to show you some photos that Martin from Photo Element has shared with us. Yes, here we are. So these are some aerial photos he took from his drone. This was the whole fleet assembled this morning in the Black River at Port Huron, over here at Port Huron Yacht Club. Amazing sight. Big boats over here. That's White Hawk, 140-foot catch. Some of the TP-52s are parked over here. There's a couple of sleds there, so big boats all out here. Medium-sized boats here, smaller boats around. This is a massive, massive fleet. You don't see many views like that. There's a direct aerial view of the same scene directly overhead, and here's another view of that. Certainly impressive show. And then out on the race course, here's what it looked like. Pretty light air. I think there was probably the postponement flag up at that time. And that looks like a start. So this is one of the smaller, slower boat classes starting. I can't quite tell which one, but this shows you what the conditions were like at the start for that class. And similarly, it's just light air. And then look at that, White Hawk, impressive impressive yacht, very large, largest boat in the fleet by far. They actually don't go very fast in these conditions, but that's a fantastic photo of them. All right, well, I'm going to try to close this off for now because I want to pick up more on this story in my early morning broadcast tomorrow. I think you've seen where the fleet lies and seen how the tracker works. And actually, I had one more thing to show, which is pretty interesting and I think kind of relevant. So here's what we have. If we take this is a plot of 50 boats in this fleet, 2 or 3 from each class, and if we run them through routing software, meaning software that will tell the boat's team what their optimal route will be relative to the weather forecast. This is using one of several available weather forecasts, and these show their routings and the software that tells them, hey, according to the weather forecast at this stage, this is the way to go. I'm going to throw this up later in subsequent shows just to show how the fleet's done relative to this. My guess is it'll be close but not exact because the actual weather is always a little bit different than what we see in theory here. But one interesting thing, as you see at the top of the course later in the race, it's predicting the fast boats to go way up to the north and then come in from the north to get around up here at the top of the course and around Beau Blanc Island toward the finish, whereas the slower boats have slightly different weather and may hug the shoreline. So that's a prediction. We don't know if it's true, but we certainly will keep tabs on that. So that's my projected time for tomorrow morning show, 6 a.m., bright and early. For those that are tuning in, I really thank you for your perseverance and your interest in this, and I hope this is informative and entertaining for everyone. So for now, I'm going to sign off. I'm Dobbs Davis, and thanks for tuning in to the 100th Bayview Mac Race.